Good day to you, Guyana, and welcome to another edition of Facing the Nation. I am Malika Ramsey. Thank you very much for joining us and inviting us into your homes for another great week. This is the first Friday in October, is it? Yes. So it's our first program for the month of October. Again, to those of you who message us, I always like to come here and, we're grateful to all the sentiments and the comments that you keep sending. I know a lot of you, we're still, and I think for some amount of time left, we're going to be annoyed at GPL. But we are grateful for all the messages and the questions that you sent after last week's conversation with the board chairman, Mr. Raul Lucas, who was here. And we thank you very much for the sentiments and the continued questions. We're not going to have him back anytime soon, but he'll be getting feedback on how you feel about some of the things that are happening in GPL in terms of bettering us. Today's guest, I know she would also have sentiments on GPL, but that is not the main reason for her being here. This is not her first time to Facing the Nation, so she is returning. It is my pleasure to welcome back to Facing Nation the Honorable Minister Cathy Hughes. She is the Minister of Public Telecommunications. Welcome back.
Thank you, Malika. It's always good to be here, and it's been a long time.
Yes, it has.
You haven't invited me for a long time.
Gosh, now how are you going to do this to me? Because the viewers know I come and I complain.
It's the truth.
I complain to them when I can't get the guests like you. And viewers, yes, I take the blame here. It has been a while since I've invited her, but she's back and she is happy. And I'm happy that, you accepted the invitation to come back on Facing the Nation. So thank you very much, ma'am.
My pleasure.
All right. Viewers, as you know, lots happening in society. The minister and I, we would have been chatting before we came on air, and I was even talking about some of the negative things. Even before I get into my conversation with the minister, I want to remind you that the GCOM claims and objections period is on right now. It has begun. Please take the time and don't wait until last minute. Please take the time to go and get it done. Get yourselves together. Ensure that you're on that list, because come March 2nd, 2020, every single vote must count. And the reason I'm talking about negative things, I mentioned negative things, I think, and I was saying this to the minister, that I think sometimes as Guyanese, we complain about every single thing under the sun. Someone messaged me early in the week asking if I can't tell GCOM to do something about the offices and they're too far apart. And fine, if GCOM can do something about it, we'll get them to do something about it. But in the meantime, please do not let that stop you from going and getting yourselves together and ensuring that you're on those lists. And, even before we talked to the minister about public telecommunications and everything that is happening now in our current political and governmental climate, I'd asked the minister to also weigh in on GCOM and the claims and objections period and what people should really be doing at this time, Minister.
Well, absolutely. I know that the lists are up outside a lot of the polling stations. Mm-hmm. I think it's important for people in communities, get your family, get everybody that is of age that was on the previous list, go back to the list, make sure that it is there. Mm-hmm. This is a very, very important election.
Yes.
And it is important for us Guyanese to exercise our franchise.
Yes.
And we must do it in a responsible and safe manner. Mm-hmm. I was just telling some young people a couple of days ago that for me, it's almost as if Guyana was given this beautiful gift. Mm-hmm. Regardless of who you call the person above, whether you call him God or whatever, Allah, whoever, we as a country have finally been given this gift. I interpret it as them saying, Guyana's had a lot of struggles and a lot of challenges. Mm-hmm. It hasn't been easy for us as a country over the last 52 years.
Indeed.
But finally, when other countries are worrying about so many issues, we have an opportunity where we know we're going to be able to earn more money.
Yes.
That would be able to build our infrastructure, be able to build more schools, be able to put new transmission lines for GPL.
Yes, ma'am.
Because for years we're doing a little patch. Let me try and do this with what I got. So we have this huge opportunity, and we can't mess it up. Mm-hmm. We cannot mess it up. This is Guyana's time now.
Yes.
And all her citizens have to be on board. Mm-hmm. I want to comment on the point you're making about us complaining sometimes.
Yeah.
We have this oil industry. Mm-hmm. It's going to bring benefits to everybody. Everybody isn't going to be working on the ship.
No, that's impossible.
But guess what? There's enough business, there are enough people coming. You look at the amount of airlines that have expressed confidence in Guyana, that are now coming to Guyana. Those airlines are not coming with empty seats. They're coming with people full. That's why more of them want to come. And that's why some of them are expanding.
Yeah.
When COPA started, COPA was doing 2 flights a week. Now COPA is, I think, almost nearly every day. So these are the kinds of things we look at. If more people are coming, is that an opportunity for more catering companies, for more people selling food in a nice, healthy way, for more restaurants to be providing local fare, whatever kind of food, health food, for rastas, for vegan folks, whatever it is. What I'm trying to show you is there's an opportunity. There are more cars on the road now. There are more small businesses. Exxon is already telling us that when they look at the Center for Business, they have 1,000 now, more than 1,000 Guyanese that are doing business with them. People, if we sit down and we don't get up and go and be innovative in the area of logistics, catering, training, whatever it is, we're going to be left behind because guess what? The whole world is watching, and the services that we don't provide, the folks from Trinidad will provide, the folks from all other countries. So we got to get an awareness.
And Minister, it really would be sad and tragic to be left behind in your own country. I mean, I know I'm taking ownership here. I get selfish at times, but it would be sad.
No, it is. It would be unacceptable. And that's why even to the mothers out there, I'm saying, you have children, right? You got to take the time now, and we're going to talk about technology.
Yeah.
You got to take the time now and start saying to your children, put in their minds that they got to start with science, technology, engineering, maths. Let them focus and do well at school. This is the time with a little guidance and encouragement, they can get a good education.
Yes.
The President Granger is very strong on education. And why am I saying this? Because this next generation, they must be the petroleum engineers. They must be the welders that can be welding on that ship. You know, at this point in time, we know that there are a lot of Trinidadians here because Trinidad had an oil industry for 100 years. It's a new thing for us.
Yes.
So we embrace people that are coming, but guess what? We have to learn. And we got to make sure that in the next 10 years, we have a generation of Guyanese that are equipped to provide a lot of services that are being demanded.
Exactly.
You know, in the public sector, there's so many vacancies. People don't realize this. There's a long list of vacancies, and quite often, they're not the people with the skills to fill those vacancies.
But Minister, I'd like to jump in here because I'm happy that and viewers, this is very, very true. I'm happy that you talked about the long list of vacancies in the public sector. I mean, we can't, what they say, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah.
But let's come back to the people some of who are actually qualified for the position. The sentiment is always, well, they can't pay me enough for my qualifications, or they can't pay me to do this.
So
and at the same time, I would want you to weigh into, because the fact is, from 2016, I think, to now, we have seen additions, increases on salary. The viewers always know I'm not a math whiz.
62%.
Exactly. That's what I'm coming to know. Let's get
in
the
our
percentages.
in the basic minimum wage, that has gone up 62% in 4 years. We forget that.
Yeah.
We don't like to focus on these things. So everybody else that's saying that they can deliver the sky, I like to say we have delivered an increase in 62%. I forget the figure for the pensions, but we know from our grandparents and from our thing, pension was, I think, just under 9,000, and now it's close to 20. I think it's just around 19 or 20. So we haven't gotten there where we want to be, but we're certainly are getting there.
I know. I just want to stay on this 62% increase for a bit. You said 62% in 4 years. Before that period, that 4-year period,
we would get a 5%.
okay, a 5%.
You remember? We forget
no,
now.
I forgot.
Every year, all you used to get is a 5%.
Okay.
And it'd be a long discussion on a 5%.
On a 5%,
Yeah.
okay. All right. Great. Minister, since we've started on this note, and viewers, I must say a good day, and thank you to those of you joining us in the social media land, Facebook. I know the CNS Channel 6 Facebook page is up and running. So those of you watching live too, thank you very much for tuning in. And we trust that you'll get as much information as possible from the minister in the time that we have on today's program. Since we started on that note, even before we go over to public telecommunications, one of the other things that it's loud, and we've been hearing a back and forth on it for the last week, and some people, again, people get fed up, but we want clarity from you. And I'm asking you this as someone who, you've been in the news before, even before we got into government, before the APNU+AFC got into government. You've been in the news before regarding your advertising agency. Now,
Yes.
there's a big talk out there about Starbuck News is saying one thing, the Department of Public Information, and by extension, the government is saying something else. And then I heard the opposition leader weighed in yesterday, trying to, I think on his press conference, trying to defend his position when he was in government, why Stabroek News was not given ads and so on. Let's hear Cathy Hughes and
Sure.
your take on it.
And I'm glad you said Cathy Hughes. I'm actually just looking for some of the information I'd actually read on this, some of these pie charts, which I think were shared on social media, which really is very interesting. So this is Cathy Hughes' take on this. Many of you will know I had an advertising agency. And part of the challenge with advertising in Guyana, I've worked in many markets. I've worked in Jamaica, in Barbados, in Texas, in England. And Guyana is one of those unique markets where nobody wants to really promote their viewership, their circulation figures, and so. So Starbuck News and at least some of the newspapers do list their circulation figures. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's in the region of, it goes anywhere from 8,000 up to, years ago it used to be, maybe on the weekend 20,000. Okay. I will tell you, I can't give you accurately because I just haven't been following those over the last 5 years or so. But what I want to say is that media has a responsibility to be able to justify how they are reaching a public and why they should be the media of choice. Okay. So I think that in this Starbuck News situation, what actually happened is that the DPI, the government, owed Starbuck News money. There's an election coming up, and I'm sure I can understand that from a business standpoint, Starbuck News would say, give a woman money, pay up your bill.
Yeah.
So if you do that to somebody, then they say, all right, you can't place any more media till you pay your bill. So the person stops placing media. You've instigated that. Person stops playing media. They pay off the bill, and now you say, come, put back your stuff on me. Now, the reality is that what is very interesting is that in the information that has been presented, and I've not seen anything that disputes that the information is correct. It's absolutely clear that Stabroek News, they say, has gotten $50 million in government ads for just 2019. $50 million. Now, from an advertising standpoint, nobody's reading newspapers. A very few. When I say nobody, the number of people reading newspapers are small, extremely small. So as an advertiser, if I put on my advertising hat, I won't be wasting putting ads in newspapers. I can get into trouble for saying it.
Yes, you will. Yeah,
I will, and that's okay. I used it. You know why? Because you could put that information on Gordon Mosley, and you will check just by the viewership and the hits that Gordon can get anywhere from 20,000 people in an hour or 2 hours, right up. Some of his posts in 24 hours has gone to 100,000 persons, right? So what I'm trying to say to you is, looking at it from an advertiser, Stabroek News, Chronicle, Kaicher News has to convince me that you still command a large number of persons. Now, I've seen threads and discussions online where the other challenge with Stabroek News, of course, is that to access their website, you have to pay a subscription, which means that you limit even the more people that are accessing it. So this was not a reason given by DPI or the government.
Right.
But I'm
Cathy
coming
Hughes
from the
speaking.
perspective, I notice in the placement information that the government actually was not placing anything on on the social media sites, which to me is a big disservice. Meaning that if you're sending out government information, I want to go where the majority of people are going.
And this is on
And
the
so, and social media is a powerful tool nowadays. So
Yes,
any
it is.
advertiser should be thinking in that direction. So I'm therefore suggesting that why is it that Stabroek News and the papers should get such a huge bulk if our mandate is to inform people and give people information? If the majority of young people and the majority of persons, let's say from 18 right up to 50, are getting all their news on this instrument we call a smartphone, then shouldn't we be placing a large amount of ads
there.
and information there?
Let me bring another side to the discussion, some of the things that you would have seen on social media. And I'm happy that you're speaking so openly about this.
Yeah.
Some people might say, well, look, take this position, look. The reason the government is not giving Starbuck News the ads or whatever, in
But you
whatever
can't
way
say
want to
that.
put
I
it.
have to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
Because 50 million,
50
is
million.
not giving
Not
them
giving
ads.
them.
They have been getting a horrendous amount of ads.
Happy that you clarified that.
There are other TV stations that we should have a responsibility to,
And
that
they're
have gotten
not-
nothing.
not even half of
Absolutely
that.
nothing.
Perfect.
Nothing.
The other side to the discussion, though, how would you respond to someone now who would come and say, well, maybe the reason that, apart from all of the explanations given that Starbuck News said, look, okay, you owe us, pay us, and then you can come back. People who will come and now, it's the political season, who will ignore that and say, well, maybe the reason that the government doesn't want to put any more there is because they don't necessarily like and I've heard this, like the articles Starbuck News are writing about the government.
That's the stupidness that I think sometimes that we get into, and I wouldn't even respond to that.
Okay.
To me, it speaks for itself. Compare what the previous government gave to Stabroek News,
Exactly.
right? And compare what this government has given. It is absolutely clear that it has been a windfall. It's like Stabroek News won the lottery, right? And I mean,
Yeah, 50 million a year.
I have had situations where I have felt that part of their coverage has not been totally independent.
Okay.
I am a staunch supporter of Stabroek News. I would say that I would continue to be, but we got to call out, agendas when we see it. And there's
Spade a
several,
spade.
we got to call a spade, and I can take the cuss up for it. That's okay. I've
His shoulders are
gotten my,
broad.
yes.
Not physically.
You see, I put
but
on a little more
yeah.
weight too, So, no, but seriously, I don't think that given, if you look at the track record, 50 million for 2019, that's all you got to look at. This wasn't a deliberate thing where we stopped giving Stabroek News. They've always gotten the bulk of it.
Yeah.
And
And
the
I'm
figures are
assuming a
there.
lot of it came because
In some
government did a lot of
cases,
outreaches
in
recently.
some cases, even Chronicle. I have one of the pie charts that was being shared here, and Chronicle, the government, so-called government, was getting 25%. Even Guyana Times, which we know has no interest
very
in
obvious.
putting any positive information with regard to what the government is doing. Unfortunately, that media, everything that the government does is absolutely
Yeah,
wrong.
they find a
And
way
this
to
is where,
spin
at the
it.
end of the day, citizens get such a disservice that, why is it that if Mr. Jaguar has a great idea, we can't say, that's a good idea? And then why is it if we are doing something great, we can't say, that's a good thing?
We wallow in bad news and
Yep.
negativity.
Yep.
It's unfortunately, this is the thing, and
It's
we're
a-
talking about
it's
it
a-
fuels us. The
It does.
negativity
And
fuels us.
I like to, I love to, I'm very strong on the fact that I had the good fortune to spend 7 years in Jamaica.
Okay.
And, I always wish that Guyanese could have more of that Jamaican nationalism spirit. The Trinidadians have it too. That we got problems, yes, but our total agenda is not all about just cutting down each other,
Yeah.
And we see it in so many, the opposition will knock us and say, oh, Lord, that's not a government. You didn't do that project. We started it. My question is, it would have been irresponsible having started the repair of the Chedijagan airport. That contract, I think, was signed in 2011 or 2012. Why in 2014 more progress wasn't made, I don't know. But it would have been irresponsible, given all the money that was already pumped in, not to finish it. Similarly with the East Coast Road. People on the East Coast know that for, oh God, more than 8 years, we were expanding the bridges, this, that. It's only now, in the last couple of years, that we're digging up. And my colleague, Minister Patterson, saying to the contractors, get this thing done, we must finish this. So, that's the stupidness.
But that is the thing, interestingly enough.
I get tired with it.
I hear you.
Honestly.
But interestingly enough, even though you were saying this, yes, it would have been irresponsible for this government, the APNU+AFC government, to go in and stop all of these things. Now you're hearing sentiments that if by some unfortunate, and this has to be greatest unfortunate twist of events, that the other side wins the 2020 election, you're hearing the amount of things that they're going to reverse and stop.
And that's why Guyana is where it is. That is exactly why Guyana is where it is. Because, funny enough, and we're having a candid conversation. I had a friend, a very close friend of Indian descent, Indian Guyanese, who said to me about 3 years ago, Cathy, you know what this country needs? National service. I didn't go to national service, right? Because I had migrated by then. But most of the people I know, especially professional people, had very good experiences with national service. I know people of all races, all Guyanese, that said when they went to national service, that's when they began to understand what was existed out of Georgetown in terms of our geography, our landscape. It was an opportunity for them to see mountains, different areas. They also talk about being able to meet people that didn't come necessarily from the same social groups that they did. And we got to be honest, if you went to St. Rose's, QC, and some of those schools within Georgetown, you had a high incidence of people from the city. I am fortunate I had persons whose parents were in rice cultivation, and so we had an opportunity to mix with people that had different experiences. We might be city people, but guess what? There are people that we knew worked in the fields before they got to school. And I often say that in our integrated classroom, you know that you had to write the notes for the first period of class, and you had to write your notes really good, because some of your friends that came from Berbice or wherever would invariably miss the first half hour.
Exactly.
You had a responsibility to give them those notes. That is how we operated. So when this friend of mine talked about national service, just so that young people could get the hands-on training, could be doing something other than liming on the street corner, I laughed at her. I'll be honest, I said, your head good? Your head good? Because she's right. That would have been an excellent program. Some variation of that for today's world. But guess what? The first thing we would have heard is, oh God, that was Mr. Burnham. That's Mr. Burnham thing. How the government just getting like Mr. Burnham. Soon they can ban flour and sugar and rice and
we automatically
the stupidness.
But I'm happy that you're talking about all of these things, and I'd like to say too that I consider myself somewhat a product of national service, because my mom was there, and I'm very proud of her. Excellent, wonderful human being. But of course, yes, I am supposed to say that, and she is that way. But I'm happy that you're talking about these things. What is it going to take for us to get away from this sort of culture whereby when we hear certain things we automatically go back to a Cherry or a Barnum, and
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is exhausting. And I don't know that those who are now in their 20s and late teens, I don't know that they really want to hear about
The
that.
beauty about it is they don't know. Most of
Well,
the folks, for example, that work in my ministry, I'm so lucky because I have a lot of young people. And I love to be around young people. Young people want to know what you're doing for them now. They want to know how you're moving this country forward. In my work, they want to know, they're excited about what we're doing in telecommunications, and we're going to talk about that just now.
Exactly.
And I much prefer that than this ongoing discussion about what happened 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Who cares? What are you doing for us now? And when are we going to be mature? So many countries, we look at the US and other places where the focus has been on developing and building institutions. And
Yes.
strangely, you can see that that has been a focus of President Granger and this administration, building the institutions that before didn't have the opportunity to act independently.
Like your sector.
Yeah,
like public
and that is
telecommunications.
important because then it's not left to an individual. You can't do anything unless the minister says so.
Yes.
And, depending on the minister's agenda, whether you're in opposition or wherever you got your agenda. And more, we need to give voice to the persons that want to just do good and have a different vision for this country than the one that automatically says, my disappointment that all that's happened here in the last couple of months is that we are being forced. I know I'm a politician, and I will admit that we are all guilty. Automatically, the agenda is the black people and the Kudi people.
Yeah.
And there is a push that we must all go, take your sides. And for those that in the middle, I mean,
I'm not really
what are
sure.
we saying? What are we saying, So those are the
it's
issues that we
interesting
have
thing
to look at still in our country. And I hope, as we started off saying, that we will be bold enough to recognize we have an awesome opportunity. And don't let's squander it. Don't let's squander it. And this is where, again, with the media, there's been such a epidemic. And it's foreigners that tell you all the time. All the newspaper articles in most of the media has been on how we can squander this oil money, how we can be subject to the resource curse, how Guyana ain't gonna do it right. We could never have a discussion, and we could never send positive messages that, guess what, guys? We can do it right, but to do it right, you got to do 1, 2, 3, 4. The discussion is never in that context. And that is a disservice that the people of Guyana get.
I am happy that you raised that too, because viewers too, you should also know, I'm going to ask her to put on her media hat here. She is also one of our, I call her a senior media person in Guyana, even though she's not practicing that. I'm happy that you talked about the fact that people are saying that most of these articles, they're just negative and so on, which means obviously there's not enough that is putting the government's agenda out there in terms of when I say government's agenda, I mean people, government's agenda for the people, for Guyana, and how Guyanese can benefit and how they have been benefiting. The government has taken some amount of blows for PR, and it has been discovered that one of the reasons we have this problem is that the former administration has somehow been able to get most of the media on its side. I don't know if it's because when they were in government, even some of the private media. How do you see government and PR entities that are supposed to be working not only in the interest of the government people, but in the interest of the state? How is that problem going to be fixed sooner rather than later? And I mean, we're going to an election.
So, I'm so excited you raised that, because this is a personal area that I have a lot of conflict and worry about. I was very fortunate last year to go to visit South Africa.
Okay.
South Africa was on my bucket list, and my husband and
Oh,
I
it was a
celebrated
bucket
our
list.
25th anniversary, and we said, we going to South Africa, which we went to. And when you go through when you go to the museums, when you see the videos of the challenge that a system of apartheid put on South Africa, when you understand the degrading and disparities that exist between one race and another under an apartheid system, then you understand the challenges of any group in any country feeling that they have been left out. And I fast forward because you're saying I know people are going to be saying, oh Lord, is she saying that Guyana is like apartheid South Africa? No, I am not. I am not. But what happened with our media is that for years, we had a deliberate policy that only government could own some of the key media. And we could use the radio as an example. For many, many years, our professional radio operators, the Gordon Mosleys, in my day, it was my father, Hugh Chumley, Enrico Wolfords, all those folks wanted to be able to get a radio license.
Yes.
And even though technology had changed and times had changed, up to the early 2000s, Guyana still only had a few, only had government radio.
Yeah.
This was a big disservice. So when people talk about all that the opposition could have done, they had a responsibility a long time ago to make radio accessible to all the individuals that now have been able to get a radio license. They didn't. And when Mr. Jagdeo finally signed off and opened and said, yes, he was giving some radio licenses, save for 2 or 3 out of all that he gave, it was absolutely clear that it was a political connection to the persons that got it. So we've had the challenge today of redressing that situation of imbalance. So imagine you have media that was given permission that almost is like if they got, you're running a race and they got edge. They're way ahead because they have had the opportunity to operate for at least 5 years ahead of everybody else. So they've made their mark in the news, in the environment. You know, the ones that have been able to get special concessions, support, etc., etc. We know how the story go, right? And then now we are opening it up. And there's several other, through the Guyana Broadcasting Authority, persons have been able to apply. I think we have a fair system where a range of people across the country,
Some we don't even know
all
about.
types, all ages, all experiences have been able to get licenses. But the reality is that some of those people will have challenges paying even the license fee, right? Because they're now starting out. There are no real concessions. One of the things that 2 members spoke to me about, and I'm going to raise it with the Broadcasting Authority, is that they got their license to operate for 2019, but they only got their license in September of 2019. And they're being asked to pay license fees
For the entire year.
for the entire year, right? So a man finally gets a license. He got fined $1 million. By January, he gonna have to pay for 2020. How unfair is it that he wasn't operating? If he's operating, I could say, yeah, well, he was operating, so he got to pay. But he waited until he got the license to operate. How
And
could
still-
you ask him to pay for a period of time that he was not in existence?
And this is what
And
is in the
these are-
legislation?
This is just their policy. And that's why I said I intend to write them to have a discussion about it, you know? But I raise that because these are the kinds of things that we do that makes it, that doesn't make the playing field level, you know? So you have some folks that never had the opportunity in those days. And these are people, I mean, some of our most noted broadcasters had applications in since the early 70s. Some of them again reapplied in the 90s. And it was a deliberate policy. So that's where my analogy with South Africa comes into being.
Okay.
After you've been locked out for such a while, how do you then allow, and what do you put in place for another newspaper to develop?
Easy access.
You know? I think that answers,
Yeah,
raises my concern.
Yeah, it does, really and truly does. Viewers, if you're now tuning in today, my conversation is with the Honorable Cathy Hughes. She is the Minister of Public Telecommunications. Of course, Minister of Public Telecommunications with so many other hats. And of course, as you're listening to her, we have not touched public telecommunications yet. So you know she has general knowledge, and that is always a good thing, especially, and you know I'm biased viewers when it comes to this, especially when the general knowledge is coming from a woman. Yes. We have to cement our power and our wisdom. Let's talk about what has happened in the public telecommunications sector, Minister, because the fact is, it is not a sector like the health sector or public security, whereby almost every day things and issues are raising about these. Public telecommunications, we don't delve into it until we hear, okay, minister is going somewhere to commission something, or how will it benefit a certain environment. I want to talk about the basic vision for public telecommunications and what the ministry has been able to achieve thus far. And again, this is new under the APNU+AFC administration.
So I'm going to tell Guyana a little story, because you asked me for the vision. And the vision for this ministry came straight from the Honorable President David Granger.
Okay.
And, you know, I have had the good fortune over the last 4 years to lead this ministry. And it has been an absolutely exciting opportunity. Now, I know if President Granger, you know, one of the sad things I always think about President Granger is that because he's a president, sometimes the type of person he is does not come across to ordinary people as much as it can. But he is a man of humor and also integrity.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes people look at him and think, oh gosh, he's so stiff, he's so straight-laced. But absolutely no. So I'm telling you this because if President Granger was listening to this program, he would be laughing. Because he called me up, his office called me up one day and said, come and talk to me, please.
Okay.
And this was in late 2015. And the conversation went like this. Minister Cathy, actually he calls me Catherine. He says, you know, I don't think that we're doing enough on the telecommunication side, on the information technology side in Guyana. I think Guyana is way behind, and we need to catch up and to fix this. And up to that point, I thought, yeah, this makes sense.
And you were still in tourism?
I was in tourism, and you know, tourism was my little baby.
Your baby.
My baby. So then he says, so he's telling me this stuff, and I say, yeah, this is true, I agree with you. And then he says, so I want to create a Ministry of Public Telecommunications. So I, you know, like a big one, say, yes, I think that's a great idea.
What
and
else
then
can you say?
Then he bowls the ball. You know, this is cricket time. He bowls the ball, you know, and I not even standing there with my bat, ready to knock, you know. And he more or less says, I want to move you from tourism. I want you to lead this ministry. And I was like, typical, I'm a woman, so I could say it. Typical woman, I'm thinking, I don't understand. You never told me this before. You didn't tell me this in 2015. How you now telling me this? You know, tourism is my baby. Why would you do this to me? I don't understand why this happened to me. All of this went on in my mind, some of which I verbalized. And of course, because he's a planner. He's a very detailed person. So of course, as I started to say, I don't know where this is coming from, and are you sure? And I don't know. He says, that's all right. He reminds me a lot of my dad, you know, almost to say, don't overreact.
I'm hearing your thoughts.
Take it easy.
Yeah, I'm hearing
And he just simply said, think about it. Think about what I've said. Think about it and get back to me. So then I went home and I thought about it. And I said, absolutely, this country is so behind when it comes to issues of accessing the internet. Look at the amount of offices where we're cutting down almost, in all our ministries, I'm sure we cut down a tree a day.
No.
We travel overseas and we're amazed at how technology is used and how it makes it so much easier. And yet, when are we going to start doing it in our own country? When are we going to start becoming a real nation that exists in 2019? Real 21st century. And that's when I thought about it and I went back to him and I said, I'll give it a shot. And let me tell you, I think for Guyana, it is the best thing that we have done. I think my ministry has been making some tremendous strides. Okay. And I am not interested in the negative. I share that with my staff. We have a mandate to deliver to the citizens of Guyana. We have a mandate to make their life easier. And I am thankful for the opportunity to explain exactly how we do that. So first of all, we know that we don't use technology sufficiently. We want to gear up this country. And so it starts really with making sure that all the ministries, all the government agencies can operate at a higher level of efficiency.
And throw away some of the piles of paper hanging around.
And communicate better. So, for example, one of the first things we did is that the previous government had established a fiber optic network.
Yes.
Most of you will have heard me talk about it. It was established by Huawei under a loan. And although it was established since 2013, 2014, it was never put into operation. So we came and we said, you know what? Put it in operation. It was a good idea, and this could be the basis of what we intend to do. So what we automatically did is put all the government agencies on that fiber optic on that network, which is a network that is free, it is safe, and when I say free, I'm going to explain. The ministries do have to pay for some of the services, but yes. So the National Data Management Authority started to play an integral role. It meant that we went to these ministries and we were able to put proper, secure internet access in these ministries so that they could then up their game. I would like to use the example of Ministry of Health and Ministry of Education. Imagine ministries that have satellite offices in the remotest parts of Guyana. Just for people to be able to come to a meeting, to hear what the vision is in a particular area, for education, for schools, for whatever it is. It would have meant that people in Georgetown would have to physically go out to the location. Or you'd have to bring all the different people down.
Spending a
lot of money, transportation, accommodation, all these different things. Just so that you can have a workshop and to be able to communicate with them. Internet at a ministry and at all these satellite offices. And as we've now done, we've put smart TVs in each of these ministries and we're putting in each of the regions, which means that Minister Lawrence eventually would be able to stay in her conference room and have all her key people from different parts connect with the technology and she could chat with them. She may still want once a year to do her big workshop. But it means that it would be easy for her to speak with her different staff, her managers, all across the place at no cost, to be in better contact, to be able to monitor, to make sure that the standards that she has, she's able to implement all over. So, this is where connecting over 110 government agencies. And I like to tell people that I gave that example of how it makes it so much more efficient. Internet then allows these ministries, as we have been saying, to have interactive websites. More stuff must be on a website. we're gearing them up through my ministry that more services must be on the website. And I want to single out NIS, I want to single out GRA and the Passport Office. Those folks have been doing some amazing stuff. Eventually, our vision, as takes place in other countries, is that no matter where you are, if you are in Latham, in St. Ignatius, in Anai, in Georgetown, in Bartica, you should eventually be able to go online, apply for your TIN number, apply for your passport. The only time you really have to go to a building
It's when
is that you're going to
uplift.
connect your secure passport. You know, the driver's license, the whole process, the test. You should be able to do that test online. Many parts of the world, we know how important online training is. And so you can do that test, you test it online, you get your result, and then maybe you go to a center to do the practical. What we are trying to do and what we are recognizing is that for too many years, most of our citizens have had to go and line up and come back 2 and 3 times to get a simple government service. And therefore I say, God willing, if we are in place next year, all these are things that my ministry will be putting
Working
out
to-
there,
yeah,
working
and
towards.
I'm happy that you said
So
that.
we are actually, we have a strategy whereby we would be implementing 100 government services in a portal. So you don't need to apply for your business registration. In fact, one of the things, because I talked about these websites, we're doing training to make sure that these websites are accessible to citizens. And just recently,
updated, yeah.
that's right. And just recently, we did a special program with ITU, the International Telecommunications
Yes.
Union, which is part of the UN agency. And we had a special program where we did a Train the Trainers program.
Yeah.
Close association with GUG, and we train 20 persons because we want to make sure that those websites are also accessible to persons that are visually impaired or blind, and also persons that are hearing impaired. Imagine, these are communities. Persons with disabilities are communities of Guyanese that we tend to leave out.
Leave out, yeah.
And as you know, my ministry had a very special program with GRA where they've been able to access vehicles if they have a physical disability. Just today I was hearing that 2 persons were able to get duty-free concessions for a retrofitted vehicle
Okay.
for persons with a physical disability. So this is real. This is not just talk. And we're finalizing. I apologize, it's taken way too long to get some of the requirements for getting your phone. Persons that are registered with the National Commission on Disabilities to be able to get a phone without taxes.
Okay.
And what is good is that, I don't know where the opposition comes with this 200 taxes. I do not believe that to be true. These areas that I'm talking about, there's no excise or import tax. There's no VAT. The 3 major taxes that used to be paid in these areas, there are no taxes at all. So those are the kinds of things. Our vision is really to be able to put more services online so citizens can benefit. So very quickly, we've expanded that to make sure that all schools, I'm happy to say it's over 170 schools, primary, nursery, and secondary schools that now have internet.
Hinterland and on the coast.
Hinterland.
We tend to forget them too.
No.
the hinterland.
And I'm happy, I'm glad that you asked that. I'll come to it in a moment. That's why I
Sure.
have this phone open here. So we've connected all these schools and we've given them internet access. Now, I want to make this clear and to explain, because the cynical people in Guyana are going to say, oh Lord, schools had internet access. Let me use St. Rose's as an
That's
example.
not necessarily true.
No,
Not
I
all
know,
schools.
I know.
Not even a
But
majority.
we answering the question in case they're saying that. So let's take St. Rose's, for example. I used to be chairman of the board of St. Rose's. I went to St. Rose's.
Okay.
And what we did is that we, as a school, would never get enough money to be able to pay for the internet. So we actually had our overseas alumni donate the funds so that we could have internet in our staff room and in the computer room.
For the students.
We were very fortunate that the overseas alumni also gave computers, and that was many years ago. And I was very happy that Ministry of Education, especially just before we came into administration, and then we have maintained it, started to give schools computers for their rooms. But in schools, they never had the opportunity to have the internet that is paid for by the government. Absolutely free. And so what I think happened is that the bigger schools that got the fancy schools would have internet. And then some of the ordinary schools get left behind. And that's why we were very strong on making sure that, again, we could create a level playing field. So all the schools have it. We've done it also in many, many, many hinterland areas. What we've done is that we've had a very special emphasis on putting internet into our hinterland communities. And so we started with some of the bigger communities like, now all of the places going to go out of my head, but I can just start reading it. But we did in Bartica, we did in, if you want to call some parts of Anna Regina, in many places in Region 10, in Mabaruma, where we have the radio stations. Let me tell you, just recently, we have actually put free internet into, I would say, close to about 50 communities.
And this is within the time of what?
And this is in the last 2 years. In the last 2 years. We always had in Anai and in St. Ignatius and many of those communities, and now we've added even more remote communities. In fact, some of the folks, if you all go to my Facebook page, I was so excited because last week we were out of town from Wednesday right until Saturday. And I went to several of the communities to double check that this internet is actually working.
And what sort of feedback you've gotten from the communities?
Unbelievable. Everybody's excited. I've gone to several of these communities, and I just want to name communities for you that are now connected to our eGov internet.
Perfect.
And they include, for example, Monkey Mountain, Kurupukubaru, Kopinam, Crashwater, Yakarinta, Yubakari, Kamwata, Parishara, Katoka, Napi, Hiowa, Mokamoka, Kumu. I actually went to Kumu, I went to Apatari, I went to Rewa, I went to Toka, I went to, where else did I go to? Several places. And of course we done Kato, Paramakatoy, some of these other areas, Shulinab, Shuriri, I went to Shuriri, Shia, I could name, imagine, it's close to 50 places. 50 places, Great Falls, Kumaka, Moblissa, Ituni. What I'm trying to say...
And just notice the silly season, and all the places that you're calling there will be challenged on the political platforms.
But I tell them, come and challenge me. Come and challenge Minister Cathy Hughes. I'm ready for a challenge because, let me tell you, I've worked hard. I have worked hard, and I am very fortunate that this administration has given me a lot of support. My fellow ministers, the Minister of Education, Minister of Health, oh my goodness, Minister of Citizenship, Winston Felix. The stuff that we wanted to do with the passport. Minister Felix is one of these people, and folks out there, y'all gonna look at Minister Felix and say, oh Lord, he's a little older. But he is extremely modern in his thinking. And so he comes to me and he says, what next we must do? What next we must do? You ain't coming by me to put something else in place. And that's a fabulous opportunity to have people that see your vision. Now, I want to mention also in terms of things that we've done, many people in Georgetown would have heard about our ICT hubs.
Yes.
And the ICT hubs, as you know, is a space where we put some laptop computers, we put free internet. And that was designed just so that anybody in the community that didn't have the good fortune to be able to have Wi-Fi at home would not be left out. And that's why I've been preaching that we've now created 175 of those hubs
Oh.
all across the country, all across
And there
the
are plans
country.
for more, I'm
And
assuming.
there are plans for more. And I want to say that if you go to the website of the National Data Management Authority and also do a search for public telecommunications, on our website we have the list of all these places and the exact location, whether it is at a church, whether it is at a school, whether the hub is in an RDC office. So all that information is there. And in fact, just before I came here, we were talking because we now have to update our website and make it even faster and make it even more accessible. So we have all these ICT hubs. And the beautiful thing is that it's not just, I speak that it's a place where students can go. All the government, Ministry of Education textbooks are on the computers there.
Yes.
But
I can
also
study.
what we're doing now is that we've done a wonderful partnership with STEM Guyana. I want to thank
Yes.
Karen. Karen Abrams is another one of these, let's get it done.
Done.
And Karen, we are now maximizing the use of those ICT hubs. We have internet there. We have the computers. People are using it. But we are now with STEM Guyana offering STEM training at the hubs. So we've started a pilot. And again, the vision is that by next year, a person living in the area, whether you're a child, whether you are an adult, would be able to go at an allotted time and be able to do training. Because we know that we're going on this digital agenda, but a lot of people haven't had the opportunity to learn how to use the technology. So I like to say that it's not just for young people, it's not just for children, it's for adults also. We have special programs we've designed for mothers, for women that are slightly older. We envision that the students can come and use it after school, but during the day,
especially for
a
those
woman could go,
housewives, yeah.
housewives could go and use it, a business person can go and use it. So we're very excited about what we're doing at the hubs. And then this is where the partnership extends. About 2 weeks ago, we signed on to a program with MacCorp. I want to thank MacCorp also. And now I want to also thank Exxon because they also have reached out to us. Both companies have platforms, learning platforms. In the case of MacCorp, we're actually about to implement, whereby their online training platform would be available at our hubs. It means that if you are a young man and you're interested in repairing Caterpillar equipment, then you could find yourself at a hub if you don't have a computer or a tablet at home. Find yourself at a hub. We're going to be doing some training sessions to introduce the concept to young people in certain communities. And then they would be able to go through this program.
Minister, I just want to, because
Sure.
I have just about 1 minute left, but on that specific note, will
Yeah.
there be measures put in place to avoid, I mean, you're talking about training, but avoid abuse? Because we can't run away from it. There's always some unscrupulous
And, you know,
person or
and this is
persons.
where I reach out to Guyanese and I say, folks, this is where we need your help. We've had situations where the folks, we usually have it's a voluntary group that mans these hubs. And unfortunately, we've had situations where the person in charge of the hub don't want to open the hub. They don't want to give their keys to somebody else. That this hub is only for a certain type of people. You know, if it's an area where they think that it's a area affiliated to a particular party, then they want to start saying that this hub is for a particular party. Nonsense.
It's for
We will
all
not
kinds.
tolerate that. In these hubs, there's no politics. You go in and you use it. It's for the people of Guyana.
Okay.
So, you know, those are the kinds of things that we've been involved in. The training that is going to be done by MacCorp is certified. I think it's going to be a real boost, especially for young people that want to learn a technical skill. I want to do a plug now for GTI. We've done a lot.
Less than a minute.
Yeah, these are all agencies that are doing great things and doing great work. And, you know, my ministry is also developing a farmers market app whereby we're connecting farmers with markets in Guyana, internationally. On this app, you're going to be able to go and post what produce you have for sale, and we're setting it up so that anybody else in the rest of the world would be able to contact you. Okay. So let me tell you, Ministry of Public Telecommunications is the best place. We got all kinds of exciting things happening. Visit my website, and anybody that don't believe what I tell you is true, come let me talk.
Viewers, and I am going to have to leave it there for now. The minister, I had so much more to get to, but of course, you know, it's the silly season is coming up. I'm not sure we're going to be able to have her back to talk so much about
I want
that.
to come back.
But
You just got to invite me.
You see the minister exposing me and putting me on blast again, but I have to take it. Those of you who are now tuning in, as I always urge you, if you missed the conversation, you can go subsequently, and maybe in another 2 hours or so, it will be posted to my YouTube channel and also Facebook page. Thank you so much to the Honorable Minister of Public Telecommunications, Mrs. Cathy Hughes. Thanks for coming. And as usual, it has always been a pleasure.
I have enjoyed it too. I've enjoyed it. So thank you very much.
I have a colleague who says, you know, sometimes I'm like, you talk a lot. You must give the guests some more time to talk. Well, my dear colleague, when you're looking at, I know she's not watching now. When she's
I talk a lot.
on YouTube,
I know.
I've been out talk today, so you have to.
No, I'm sorry.
No,
I know
fine.
sometimes I swear that I must be the worst person to interview.
No, you're not. Actually, you're good. You make the job easier because you just flow.
And you know what? I'm just excited about our future. I'm just excited about Guyana. We got some great things going.
It is refreshing,
you know,
and it's
great.
always refreshing coming from someone in authority who really and truly helped to mold and help to develop society. Viewers, I have to leave you for now. Don't forget the claims and objections period. That is ongoing. Get yourself together, and we will keep reminding you every week when we come here. This has been Facing the Nation. I am Malika Ramsey. I remind you to be good Guyanese citizens. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and of course, thanks for watching.
Thank you.